What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video here at Matty Fish 33. So in today's video we're going to talk a little bit about my feeding routine for these African cichlids and maybe a few tips for you guys as well. Also, real quick before we get into all of that, if you know who's on my shirt, comment down below. Also, quick little shout out to my buddy Jacob over at Small Fish 16. He's the one that suggested that I do this video for you guys. And then also, if you haven't yet, please go check his channel out. He's growing out some Oscars and some other South American cichlids. And it's a nice little cichlid journey to be on, just like my African cichlid journey here. So if you haven't yet, go check out Small Fish 16, guys. I promise you won't be disappointed. And also, I think in the future, me and him might do a collaborative live stream. So comment down below thoughts and opinions on that, and we'll go from there, guys. So let's get into today's video. So this is probably a highly debatable topic, if you will. There is no, well, I don't want to say there's no right or no wrong when it comes to feeding your fish, sans overfeeding or underfeeding, which is a less common occurrence than overfeeding, unless you are a lazy fish keeper and just kind of forget to feed your fish, which shame on you if you are, but I know you guys are not that, or you wouldn't be here. So that being said, today is Saturday, so Saturday is kind of like a little special treat day for feeding, stuff like that. They get a little bit of a little extra nice stuff because Sunday is our no feed day. So first, before I get into what they get fed on and how I rotate this in and out, let's talk about my feeding schedule. So my fish, and this is all of my fish with the exception of the guppy tank, which only gets fed once per day. Obviously, I think that kind of goes without explanation as to why that is. Much smaller fish, much smaller metabolism, smaller habitat, etc., so forth. I think you guys get the idea there. But these guys, they get fed twice a day, as well as the 112 tank gets fed twice a day. And then when I had the cube set up, same deal, and will be the same deal when I get that set back up, which, by the way, that is going to happen soon. I haven't decided if I'm going to do that first, or if, since me and my wife were talking about this, she has now said she's okay with me getting 240 or 260 gallon breeder tanks and setting them up on a rack. So stay tuned for that stuff. So anyways, back into it. So these guys get fed twice a day. Generally, their feeding is not as far apart as you would think that it has to be. I don't think that they need to have a set schedule per se, mostly just because there is no set schedule out in natural habitat, right? You know, a fish could go days without eating. A fish could eat every hour of the day for 2 straight days in a natural habitat. It just kind of depends. But obviously there's a lot more factors that play into it in an aquarium because you don't want to overfeed. It's an enclosed space. It's not an open habitat where there is natural water filtration such as rainfall and drought and lots of plants, and there's not a big aquifer base like there is in a natural ecosystem, right, guys? Now obviously the bigger the tank is you get, the easier that becomes, which is kind of why I like to tell people in that regard, it's easier to keep a large fish tank than it is to keep a nano fish tank in most cases, especially if you go to the saltwater side with dosing and things, but that's a whole different realm. That's not what this video is about, so let's not get too far into that. So these guys get fed twice a day, and they get a rest day on Sunday. Now, I used to do it every week when they were smaller, when I was feeding them 3 times a day, because I was trying to boost their growth and their color development when they were, you know, more of that juvenile side of their stage. But now twice a day, and now peas probably once every other week or so. Usually I might do that on the no feed day or right before I go to bed, before the no feed day, to kind of help clear their digestives out. So I mean, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I prefer just par-cooked frozen peas. Very easy. You just thaw them out and then make sure that you shell them, because the shells aren't easy on your fish to digest. But the inner portion of the pea is a great natural fish laxative, guys. It's going to help clear out your fish's guts and digestive system and help get them ready for another week, or, you know, other stages of feeding, things like that. So if you ever get a fish with bloat and you don't want to treat with chemicals, anything like that, this is the way to go. Just some green peas. You can use non-frozen peas as well. I would recommend cooking them first and then shelling them, obviously, just like you would these frozen peas when you thaw them out. But really useful if your fish gets bloat, has any type of internal issue going on. Generally with peas and garlic, you can actually almost cure a lot of different internal parasites without having to use chemicals. So really useful tools, guys. So let's get into the staple foods that they get fed. I'm sorry I don't have one of my packagings right now. I went to re-up on food the other day, and they were out of flu vault bug bites. Now I will tell you, so omega-1 cichlid pellets, that is one of the things that's in here. This is a mix. This is my batch. After I mix it up, I'm showing you now what's in it. So these are omega-1 cichlid pellets. Very good for your fish, but please, as with all other pellets that have a lot of crude protein and stuff like that, be careful about how much of this you are feeding them. This is great for growth and development, but it can also push bloat pretty quickly, especially if you're feeding it to an Mbuna tank. So the other mix that I do with pellets, some New Life Spectrum, and then, as I said before, I'm sorry they were out of it when I went to the store the other day, is the flu vault bug bites. But I take those 3 pellets and I get us a little mix here, as you can see. So the bigger pellets you see in there, those are the bug bites. But a nice, well-rounded pellet diet for them in that sense. So this is kind of like their staple. They get these every day. They don't get a whole heck of a lot of it, though. I'll show you, because you're probably going to think that I feed them more than I actually do. So give you an idea of the amount. So there are, I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but there are 25 or so fish in this tank. And you know, there's a couple fish that are under 5 inches, but the majority of these fish are between 5 and 8 inches long right now. When I feed them this, that's it. That's how much. And they get these for their first feeding every day when they get fed. Now today being Saturday, a little special, they get their raw proteins twice today, because it is before no feed day, so a little treat for them. So what kind of raw proteins do I feed these guys? Hold on, guys, 1 second. Alright, sorry for the stop edit. I realized there was something that I meant to grab that I hadn't grabbed yet. So what type of raw proteins do I feed these guys in addition to my blend of pellets that I'm currently feeding? Also, again, like, real quick before I get into the raw proteins, one thing about pellets is, like, just make sure whatever pellet that you're using, so this one you see, the first 3 ingredients, salmon, whole herring, shrimp, pea protein, that's great. Now there's also a little bit of wheat germ in here and stuff like that, and some wheat flour. That's why I say be careful feeding too much of this, because it can help lead to the bloat. But, you know, just make sure that your pellet that you're getting, the number 1, 2, 3, 4th ingredient listed is not whole wheat, anything wheat, you know, anything that's glutinous, for that matter, because that's going to lead to your fish bloating. And if most of the protein from it is coming from, you know, glutinous items in here, that's what's going to, you know, give you that bloat and going to be detrimental to your fish in the long term. So make sure you look for something like that when you do get this. And I'll show you on the New Life Spectrum. Let's see the list of ingredients. So yeah, so whole Antarctic krill, giant squid, whole menhaden, seaweed, 3 different types, garlic, ginger, and then you have your wheat binder. So both of these, your proteins are coming more so from the actual processed proteins that are in it and not from the filler that's in it. So that's what you want to look out for when you do buy pellets and when you do feed your fish pellets. And also, I prefer to give them more than just the pellets because I like a real rounded diet. I like to mix it up for these guys. Obviously out in nature, they're not going to get to eat the same thing every day. And I mean, I don't know if the fish can actually think about this in this sense, but like to me, like because I'm a chef for my real job, it'd be boring to eat the same thing every day. So, you know, I try to mix it up for them. So let's get into some of the raw proteins that I like to feed them, right? So we'll talk about this one real fast. This is kind of like if I'm in a pinch and let's just say that I don't feel like spending a lot of time dealing with the raw protein that day. So this is something called Formula 1. I know that it's mostly designed for marine tanks, but these ingredients work very well for cichlids. And actually, you don't have to thaw these out either because they're gelled with gelatin. So the ingredients in this one is mysis, shrimp, plankton, mussels, squid, salmon eggs, nori, kelp, brine shrimp. Those are your main proteins in this one. So a lot of the same things you're going to feed your cichlids anyway. So if you ever don't feel like shelling out 3 or 4 different proteins and want something fast and easy, I definitely would suggest this because this would save you a lot of time if you're just trying to be fast one day. So let's get into some more of this. So one of the biggest ones is going to be your spirulina brine shrimp. Now obviously you can feed regular brine shrimp too, or you can feed mysis shrimp too, which is what emerald entree is. These are spirulina mysis shrimp. The reason that I like to feed the spirulina is because it really helps with the colors, and also it helps a little bit with the digestion of it. Now, you don't have to, like I said, but if you are using regular brine shrimp or regular mysis shrimp, switch to these for a month or 2, and I promise you, you'll notice a difference in the color of your fish and a little bit in the behavior of your fish as well. So these are one of the 2 that I rotate, or 2 of the ones that I rotate in and out. Basically what I kind of do with their raw proteins is like, I'll have a day where I feed them, you know, these 2, and then I'll feed them maybe some salmon skin with one of those one day. That's what these are. These are from omega-1, and this is mostly salmon skin. There's also whole herring and shrimp. These are also another gelatin product, and these also have spirulina in it. So another item really good for your fish colors. The salmon skin really helps with a lot of fats, amino acids, omega-1, no pun intended. Omegas, I should say, omega and amino acids, and those really help with your fish's skin, your slime coat, you know, you name it. And then on treat day, like they'll get krill a couple times a week here, because that really helps with colors as well. Your guys that have a lot of oranges, you're going to get a lot of good coloration out of them if you feed them some krill and some salmon skin, things like that. You know, and also this just gives the bigger guys a little bit bigger of a target so that, you know, they can, I mean, for lack of a better way of putting it, I guess, feel good about themselves, you know, not zooming around looking for this tiny brine shrimp and eating something that's like, I guess, it'd be for us, it'd be the equivalent of maybe perhaps going to McDonald's and getting a Whopper because you just feel like stuffing your face, right? So, and then I also feed frozen silver sides. I only do this a couple times a week, just because like it is a little bit harder of a thing for them to pass, and they're not fully used to it. They're used to eating more of your invertebrates and things like that, even out in the wild. Some of these predatory haps, obviously that's a little bit different, and I probably will utilize feeding this a little more often when they get bigger. You know, I think maybe one day I might even try doing some hand feeding for you guys. I haven't started training them for that yet, but we'll get there. But I'll add those in too because you're going to get straight unprocessed fish oils, and like I said before, omegas, amino acid fats, things that are really good, that are going to help your fish's diet and digestive, and really help them pop out with their colors, and you know, keep them nice and healthy for their fins and their slime coat and everything like that. And then one other thing that I like to do, it's not necessary because my fish are going to eat regardless, but I like to add a little garlic guard here and there. It can help guard against parasites a little bit. It's not going to fully prevent them, but it also, this is like flavoring for your fish, guys. I mean, it's like, for those that know what I'm talking about, perhaps it's like eating a dish with just salt in it versus eating a dish that has salt and a little bit of MSG in with it too. It's just, there's something that touches your palate, whereas for this, there's something that touches a fish's palate, and it makes them more inclined to eat, and it makes them enjoy their food a little bit more too. So that's basically my feeding routine. Every now and again, I'll throw in some bloodworms, but I really don't like to do that because bloodworms are not the best. It's just a lot of protein for these fish to handle at one time, especially if you have a mixed tank that's predators and omnivorous fish. If you fed bloodworms every day consistently, it could probably give you some bloat in your fish that are more omnivorous. So I would suggest against it, and if you do, only a treat here and there. Same thing with beef heart, guys. Same thing. Like, too much protein is going to give your fish bloat. Like, this is why before I give them a little bit of food and you get to watch them have their treat, this is what I'm going to say. So, like, on the back of this, here's your analysis, right? So, the crude protein in this, 39.4%, right? And your crude fats, almost 14%. The fiber is under 2%, guys. So, it's not really, like, there's the bulk of this is protein, right? Whereas if you look at, say, for example, these mysis shrimp, right? Your crude protein, 6.9%, crude fat, 1%, right? And then they're like 90% moisture. But that's a good thing because you're not blocking up your fish's internals with that. Now, the reason for feeding the pellets with the higher crude protein and stuff, like that is going to help push growth when they're younger. But, you know, I think that once these guys are all fully grown, I might even rock away from the pellets completely. But that'll be another conversation when we get to that juncture if I do decide to make that decision. Also, once they're full grown and they're in a little bigger tank, I probably will do some live feeding every now and again. I'm going to say one thing about live feeding real quick though. I would not suggest getting feeders from the pet store, things like that. Start a colony of fish. It's going to be safer for your fish. The chances of cross-contamination of them eating fish with parasite goes down exponentially, especially you know what's in your tank if it's a fish that you're taking care of, even if you're raising it just for food for these guys. So let's get into this and give these guys some food. First, real quick, I'm going to feed the smaller tank, the 112, because I get the scoop out for them. And then we're just going to dump the rest of this in for the big guys. So you can see not a whole heck of a lot of food. You'll see right now in a minute. Let's go ahead and give these guys a little treat for you. Maybe one little more. Just try to get some of these smaller bits for these guys because they are smaller fish. I think that's plenty for them for now. Wow, look at the piebald diver. I just took the biggest piece that he saw. So one of these guys that's going to move, I've said this before, this 3-spot torpedo, he's going to move over to the big boy tank. It's just right now he's a little small to be in with the hawk and the buco. They might try and eat him. As you can see though, he's going to be a monster one day. Look at that. Just took that big piece away from the piebald niri, and he's not going to let anybody have that. He's going to work that down. So let's go feed the big boys real quick for you guys. So guys, every time they know what's up. Look, they're ready. I mean, they're kind of trained though. Like as some of you guys that keep cichlids before, or keep cichlids as well, excuse me, know that they're always going to act like they're hungry. They might splash you when you open the lid, this, that, the other, but I've actually found a way to kind of train these guys against that. So what I've found is if today they're doing pretty good actually, but some days, especially when I've come home from work and they haven't been fed for 10 or more hours, they're up here and they're splashing and, you know, they're just ready to put me in the front row at SeaWorld when I'm about to open the tank to feed them. But one way around that, so you see they're going to come up now. They're actually being very behaved today. But what I'll do if they want to splash, I'll open the lid very slow. And if they start splashing, I put the lid down and I step away from the tank. And you see how they're kind of used to that. And they just kind of started to go back to doing their own thing. So I won't do it for too long, and then I'll come back. And you see everybody nice and calm, even calmer than they were before. I wish they would have splashed a little bit today, and then I could have given you a better example, but I think you get the general idea. So let's go ahead and give these guys their Saturday treat. Check out how fired up V is today. A lot of these guys really fired up today. Very happy for that. Speaking of fired up, look at our tetrastigma. Very, very dark. Definitely putting off some of his dominance today. Hasn't really gotten a lot of his reds in yet, but you can see they're coming in there, right on there behind his gill plate. They're starting to come in. So we'll see what happens with that in the next couple months. But I always love watching this little effect, and it looks like a lot of food, but those are a lot of tiny particles. Guys, like I could sit here and hold this video here for about maybe 3 minutes, and all of this would be gone. I love the effect that it has, though. It's like a snow globe with colorful fish, and I mean, it's just fun to look at, right? And I love watching my fish eat, and I hope you guys do as well. And I'm sure that for those of you that have fish, you understand exactly what I'm saying. So guys, that's going to be basically it for feeding routine. So be on the lookout for a potential joint live stream, maybe this week, maybe in the next couple weeks coming up. We just got to see. I'm definitely going to do a Sunday swim this week regardless. And also, one last time, guys, if you haven't yet, go check Jacob's Fish out over at Smallfish 16. Good shout out for him, guys. Please follow along with him. And as I've said, which I didn't say earlier in this video, if you've been here before, thank you. Thank you for coming back, and thank you for continuing to follow us on this journey. If you have not been here before, but you like what you see, please subscribe, hit that bell, get those notifications, and follow us along on this journey, guys. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you very much. Matty Fish out.